Huge development in the manhunt for Hadush Kabatu, the migrant who stayed at the Bell Hotel in Epping and went on to sexually assault a 14-year-old girl. We have just found out that he boarded a train from Chelmsford to London at 12:41 p.m. this afternoon. We've got a statement just out from Essex Police about this new finding. Let's take a look. So the Essex Police force are saying we were informed by the prison service at 12:57 p.m. today of an error this morning surrounding the release of an individual. As a result of that, we've launched a search operation to locate them and are working closely with partner agencies. These fast-paced inquiries have shown that the man boarded a London-bound train at Chelmsford railway station at 12:41 p.m. We understand the concern the public would have regarding this situation and can assure you we have officers working to urgently locate and detain him. We would appeal to anyone who has seen him or has any information regarding where he might be to call 999 immediately. And quote the number there. Well, I do have to say that this seems like a quite slow operation, doesn't it? So the police only found out that this man was walking free at 12:57 p.m, hours after he was actually accidentally released. That is nearly 20 minutes after he had already gone to Chelmsford, already spent time seemingly shopping on the high street there. We'll show you footage of that in a second. Gone to the train station and caught a train to London. Now, this makes things far more complicated now because, well, first of all, they've only just figured out that he got on this train that will have arrived in London over 6 hours ago now, right? Where on earth in London is he now? He's not going to be near the train station that he arrived at because that was hours and hours and hours ago. London has 9 million people. Yes, there's a lot of CCTV, but there are so many people to hide yourself amongst. This is going to be a difficult operation, and it is now into darkness. We're now into the night time, which makes things a lot more difficult. He will have been given about 75 quid when being released from prison. They give you a little bit of cash. That meant that he could buy a train fare. That probably, I presume, would have cost him something like 15-20 quid. He'll still have some cash left to potentially travel around further. But the thing is, now that this is a big case in the news, it's going to be difficult for him to, let's say he goes to a hostel and tries to get a bed to stay in tonight. There is a chance that they may know who he is if he appears at the door. So it's going to be very difficult for him to find somewhere to stay. It is cold tonight. It's been a cold few days, so I don't know where he is going to hide, but there are a lot of people in London. It's a big place, and as I said, it's taken the police 6 hours after this train arrived in London for them to figure out that this guy was on it. They're talking about how fast-paced and urgent this is, but if you ask me, it is quite slow. Now let's just go back to that moment today in Chelmsford where he was caught on video. Of course, we don't 100% know for certain if this is him, but I am 99% certain it is. That is clearly his face. He's there in a grey prison tracksuit, and his belongings in a plastic bin liner also does suggest that he's just been let out of prison. Seems to maybe be asking for directions there. We're not sure if he had a phone because they've given him his belongings. Here's him when he was originally arrested by the police. You can see the face matching. If he had a mobile phone on him, though, I think that the police would have been able to track him down quite quickly. They'd have been able to track the phone, but they haven't been able to find him just yet. So as you can see there, very strong resemblance between the two men. We've also just had a statement come out from Chris Philp. He says a dangerous convicted paedophile who attacked a 14-year-old girl has been allowed to vanish back onto our streets. He should have been deported immediately, but this government has no backbone, whether it's a migrant breaking back into the UK or record entries into the UK this week has been a litany of failures from the Home Office and the Home Secretary. Only the Conservative Party have a serious, hard-edged plan to deliver stronger borders, blah, 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 plugging the Tory party. But, of course, there are a lot of questions to be asked to David Lammy and to Shabana Mahmood as to how on earth this has happened. Another very interesting thing is the fact that this was such a high profile case. This has been in the news. He was very well known by the prison officers because the case was high profile. We understand he wasn't able to socialize properly with the other inmates because they were worried for his safety because his face was so famous across the news. You would have thought that of all the prisoners being released, that is the one guy that you would be least likely to make a mistake with. You'd be least likely to mistake him for a man who is about to be released. I mean, all of us who are sat in our homes that watch the news know that this guy has been sentenced to 12 months, and he's either meant to be behind bars or being deported. The officer who's now been suspended, by the way, we've had that update, suspended from releasing people, at least. I don't understand how this error was made. It's absolutely crazy that such a high profile case they managed to fuck it up that badly. I mean, seriously. And Epping, the victim and her family in Epping will now be worried that this man who has traumatized their daughter is now back on the streets. Initially, people were suggesting that there was a good chance that he would have actually taken the train back to Epping. Why? Because he doesn't know anywhere else. Remember, he committed his crimes against this 14-year-old girl and another older woman, sexually assaulting them only 8 days after arriving in the UK. So that means he didn't know much of the UK, he won't have travelled to many places, he'll just know Chelmsford. Another implication of the fact that he was only here for 8 days before he committed these crimes is that he probably hasn't made that many friends in the UK. The police, I'm sure right now, they will be trying to figure out any friends that he had in prison, in the Bell Hotel in Epping, and trying desperately to speak to them to find out any indication as to where he might be going. So, for example, he's an Ethiopian man. Maybe he has some Ethiopian connections in London, places where he might go to try and stay this evening. But if anybody takes him in to stay tonight and the police find out, there could be huge consequences for them as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as this goes into the night. Now, you guys may remember Daniel Khalif, the terrorist who escaped from Wandsworth prison. That was far more calculated and sneaky because he actually staged a prison escape, as opposed to this case there wasn't any kind of James Bond planning involved. He simply was released by accident. But Daniel Khalif, he was from the army and he is trained to survive in the wild. So what did Daniel Khalif do? Well, he seemed to jump off the lorry he escaped on by Putney Heath and probably went into Putney Heath and or Richmond Park, and just was able to survive in the wild because he's trained how to do that. But this guy, this Ethiopian man, he's not some sort of army guy or James Bond guy. We don't know what his skills are in this respect, so I expect it will probably be easier to find him than Daniel Khalif. It took ages to find Daniel Khalif. I can't remember how many days and weeks it was, but it was a very long time. But this, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they find him quickly, because I doubt he's really got any kind of skills in the sense of hiding from the police. But it is very incompetent. As I say, the police have taken over 6 hours to figure out that this man was on a train to London. God knows where he is now. 9 million people in London. How on earth are they going to find him? I presume they will be scouring the CCTV like mad. It will be interesting to see if, when looking at the CCTV, he has now covered his face up, trying to hide his identity, maybe changed his clothes out of that grey prison tracksuit that now distinguishes him. Is he even following the news and realising that we are all looking for him? Or there is a chance that he genuinely has been misled by the prison service into thinking he is now free to go and can walk the streets, and hence he was very casually walking about on Chelmsford High Street. Let's just take a look back at that clip again of him being spotted. He doesn't look like a man on the run here, does he? He doesn't look like he's in a hurry. He doesn't look like he's worried about being caught. So there genuinely is a chance this guy doesn't have Probably doesn't have a mobile phone, because else I think the police would have found him by now quite easily. He might be completely oblivious to the fact right now that everybody is trying to find him. I mean, if so, that would be absolutely hilarious. But I think it just shows the level of incompetence in this country, right? That we have no border control and no prison control either. We've got no security with our borders, no security in the prisons. This is broken Britain at its finest. But don't worry, folks, because David Lammy has said that he is helping the police to find this man, so I'm sure they'll find him in a heartbeat. No, I'm joking. In fact, David Lammy will probably set them back a bit, because he'll say something stupid, won't he, like he always does. Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. That is the latest update, and we'll see if he's found soon, and we will let you know. For now.